Hi there, my name is John Stevens, pastor of Zion Lutheran Church in Oregon City, Oregon, and we're part of the ELCA, and welcome to Dollar Store Children's Sermons, where we take a look at the lectionary text. We tie them to an item from the Dollar Tree. This is for the 7th Sunday of Easter, and we are looking at either the gospel lesson or the second reading out of Revelation. And a couple of items, couple of ideas, directions to go on this. The first one, on the gospel lesson, I mean, it's that whole, no one knows the Father, but if you know me, and if you've seen me, you've seen, I mean, it's all this, just the circular language that gets going on that you're like, So when I read this, the thing that kind of rises to the top for me is that when we know Jesus, we know God. And how that when Jesus says, "You've seen me, you've seen God," when you've seen, you know God, and the followers know me, and all this. So one of the items that I'm looking at using is a piece of construction paper with a big question mark. And the big question mark is because all through this, Jesus points out that there are the questions about not knowing, and yet you know, and it just leads to this idea of it's okay to not know, it's okay to wonder, it's okay to go, what's going on here? And in Jesus, we get some of those answers that when we see Jesus, there's that. So it's this whole big question that comes to mind. And partly it's because I'm struggling with the text and I'm trying to figure out where to go. But that's what it leads to, is that when we have questions about God, we can turn to Jesus. For example, it's when we go, how does God think about the poor? And we can look at how Jesus responded to those in need, the outcast. And we go, that gives us a really good idea. And so on those questions, we can look to see, to simplify it, it would be, what would Jesus do? And it really, there's all kinds of stuff. And I know that even in the WWJD, there's baggage around there. But still, it gives us that direction to go, that question to go. When we see how Jesus welcomed and acted, it gives us a good idea of how God sees the world. So that question mark. The other is that when I look through this, we see, the other item I'm going to use or thinking about using is a family photo. And the family photo could be myself, or it could be, we've got a couple of folks in church that the dad and the son, they look a lot alike. The mom and the daughter look a lot alike. The mom and the son, different features in the face, they look a lot alike. Looking at family resemblance, when we look at one of the stories I have is when years ago when I came to pick up my son Peter from after school care, and I had not met the people that were running it, and I walked in and they said, we need to see ID, but we know that you're here to pick up Peter. I'm like, well, I'm glad you're checking ID, but how do you know that I'm here to pick up Peter? And they said, well, first of all, you look a lot alike, but you guys walk exactly the same way. And which was amazing to me that they would notice that, but there's those attributes about us. And so when I read the gospel lesson, I see when Jesus goes, when you see me, when you know me, when you see me, you will recognize God. There's these attributes about Jesus that are to echo the Creator. And so there's that. So those are two directions on the gospel lesson. Again, the gospel lesson is it's a hard one for me for a children's sermon, but that's the two directions on that. The other is on Revelation and the whole coming soon. So the items I'm looking at here is an advertisement, something that might be coming, whether it be a movie, whether it be, there's a place in town that's opening up. You could talk about, Pokemon movie is out now, but you could talk about something that it might be coming soon to the theater near you, or coming soon. And that could be an advertisement for something that's happening next week. It could be whatever. And using that using that idea about talking about in Revelation where Jesus says, I'm coming soon. Now, it doesn't tell us what that means, coming soon, but the promise is that Jesus is coming again. Promise is that Jesus is not leaving us alone, if that's the right phrase, but the promise is that Jesus is coming soon. And so using that advertisement for that, using that in that conversation. So, all right, a couple of springboards here. I'm hoping one of these might be useful for you in your own thinking around your children's sermon. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you have a fantastic week.